Priti Patel. We would bring your attention to the attached affidavit which was served upon the 657 MPs and officers of government on the 23rd day of August 2020, which is also a published and public affidavit by way of a public declaration on the 21st day of September 2020, which is also published here. And we note that Priti Patel was one of the 657 recipients by email of the same affidavit on the 23rd day of August 2020. We would note to Priti Patel that the legal function of an affidavit is that when the content of an affidavit has not been legally redressed or proven to be incorrect, then the legal function of an affidavit is a formal and legal process to create legal and indisputable legal agreement to the details and content of the affidavit, which is the legal function of an affidavit to create this legal and binding agreement. We would draw Priti Patel's attention again to Exhibit C, in this affidavit where it has been confirmed by none less than Chandran Kakathas PhD of the London School of Economics. That a state is a company, and as a company a state is no different to McDonald's. We would also note to Priti Patel that this is also doctrine and can be cited and referenced by any law degree student for his theses. We would also note to Priti Patel in the same Exhibit C, that is has been confirmed by the Lord Chief Justice. The RT. Hon. Lord Chief Justice Sir Jack Beatson FBA in the same year of 2008 that the RT. Hon. Lord Chief Justice Sir Jack Beatson FBA confirmed that the Office of the Judiciary is a sub-office of the same state company, and this is also a published fact on the Judiciary website and is therefore a confirmed and indisputable fact. The 2003 changes and the new responsibilities given to the Lord Chief Justice necessitated a certain amount of re-examination of the relationship between the judiciary and the two stronger branches of the state, the executive and the legislature. We would also note to Priti Patel that it has been confirmed by the Lord Chief Justice that this places every member and officer in the executive office of the company outside of the jurisdictional control of the Office of the Judiciary, and that all executive offices including ministerial extensions to the executive office have complete impunity for any criminal offence they choose or wish to commit, and this is now becoming widely known among the people of the UK. We would also bring to Priti Patel attention to Exhibit B, in the same formally agreed 657 affidavits as of 2015, that there was a formal case at a tribunal recognised by the same company office where there was a claim made under the Traffic Management Act 2004, and that it was found that incorrectly by adjudication that Mr. David Ward has no liability under the Traffic Management Act 2004 for the very simple reason that the circa 63.5 million people in the UK have never once in 800 years formally agreed to be governed and legally signed the legal consent of the governed, and without this legal consent then none of the acts and statutes or legislations of the company have any valid legality and are by default totally illegal and criminal, which constitutes criminal fraud. And we would also note to Priti Patel that as a result of these legal proceedings at a company recognized tribunal that there was also a signed and legal declaration of no contest which is legally signed by the company office as a formal agreement to the facts. We would further draw Priti Patel attention to further legal proceedings where this affidavit and the 657 formal agreements to this same affidavit has been repeated used as foundation, in fact with 100% success inclusive of judges in the company office of the judiciary of the same company, and are also formally published securitized commercial liens here. Judges. District Judge How Latif Lian. 001. District Judge How Latif Lian. 002. District Judge How Latif Lian. 003. District Judge How Gray Lian. 001. District Judge How Fitsgerald Lian. 001. How Woodward Lian. 001. How Masheder Lian. 001. How Buckley Lian. 001. MP. How FB Lian. 0001 Fiona Bruce. MP. How FB Lian. 0002 Fiona Bruce. MP. Lawyers. How Hamlins Richard Paul Lian. 001. How Hamlins Neil Thomas Lian. 001. How Hamlins Matthew Pryke. 001 How Hamlins Daniel Bellau Lian. 001. How Hamlins Charlesbezzant Lian. 001. How Hamlins ASELLEDJUMABAEVAWOOD Lian. 001. How Hamlins CHARLOTTEALLAN Lian. 0001, how, C, N, Lien, 0001, how, C, N, Lien, 0002. How MROWENS Lien. 0001. How John White Lien. 0001. How CANTHISTLE Lien. 0001, how, M, R, T, D, Lien, 0001. Warrant of arrest. How HMCTSACALLISTER Lien. 0001. How HMCTSACALLISTER Lien. 0002. Bailiff. How Lien MRWN. 000001, how, M, R, K, M, Lien, 0001. How LIEN MRMD. 000001. How Lien MRWN. 000002. How Lien MRKN. 000001. How MSSW Lien 0001, how, M, S, S, W, Lien, 0002, how, Spy, Lien, 0001, how Senior Lien 0001, how, Lass, Lien, 0001, how, Jimc, Lien, 0001. Parking ticket. How CE0084 LIEN. 0001. How CE0203 LIEN. 0001. We would note to Priti Patel in that the words obligation and liability do not, and cannot exist outside of a formal and legal agreed contract, and this fact has been formally agreed in the fact that Mr. David Ward has no liability under the Traffic Management Act 2004, and the formal and legal signed declaration of no contest is definitive and absolute legal proof and agreement of this fact. We would further note to Priti Patel that there can be no legal representation unless there has been a formal and legal transfer of power of attorney has been legally transferred, and without this legal and signed transfer of power of attorney any representation would also be illegal and criminal conclusively. It is therefore legally impossible for there to be a legal and legitimate government, and this has been true for 800 years. It is therefore a fact, Priti Patel, that there has never once in the 800 years been a legal and legitimate government to represent the current day circa 67 million people. In the absence of these circa current day missing and legally signed 67 million legally transferred powers of attorney, then no legal representation can be made. This is all definitive and absolute legal proof of the fact that a general election by way of a secret ballot has always been illegal and does not constitute any legal transfer of power of authority in any way. We would also note to Priti Patel that all tax in all its forms are criminal fraud. None of the circa 67 million people current day has any legal obligations to pay tax in any form. More to the point, in economics, when what we pay tax for also pays tax, then there is no return path for the tax cash back into economics, and there is billions in tax which just gets flushed down some cash black hole because there is no economic return path for the billions in tax cash. Economic austerity is a planned and executed poverty, with now 300,000 or more homeless in the UK as a direct result of being taxed beyond economic capabilities to sustain. The economists in office need to go back to university to get the fees back. This level of stupidity is unconscionable. Unless, of course, this is willfully planned and executed, and we fail to see how this cannot be otherwise. It is a maxim, and a maxim is called a maxim as they are maxims in facts. He who makes a claim carries the obligation to present the material evidence of the claim. The very existence of a state company which as a company is no different to McDonald's, and there is a position of Member of Parliament or CEO of that company which is no different to McDonald's, is the very evidence that there is a claim. The very existence of Priti Patel email address is indisputable evidence in fact of that claim. He who makes a claim carries the formal and legal obligation to present the foundation in evidence of that claim. It is therefore a noted obligation for Priti Patel to present the material evidence to support this claim in one of two forms. 1. Priti Patel carries the formal obligation to present the material evidence that the circa 67 million people have formally signed and legal transferred the legal power of attorney, where the circa 67 million people can be legally represented by a government. OR. 2. Priti Patel carries the formal obligation to present the material evidence that the circa 67 million people have formally signed an legal consent to be governed, which would be representative of a commercial agreement where there can be contractual legal obligations or liabilities under the acts and statutes and legislations in accordance with the formally agreed and legally signed agreement to the facts and with the legal and signed declaration of no contest to that legal effect. Failure to present this legally obligated evidence in fact will enter Priti Patel into a lasting and legally binding agreement the following effect. 1. That there is a formal and lasting legal and binding agreement between Mr. Anton Carpena and Priti Patel in the position of Member of Parliament for him parliaments and governments that the claim that there is a legal and legitimate government is fraudulent in nature, which is fraud by misrepresentation and carries a term of incarceration of 7 to 10 years, and the latter, where there is multiple instances of, is a chargeable criminal offence, and that there is a formal and lasting legal and binding agreement between Mr. Anton Carpena and Priti Patel in the position of Member of Parliament for him parliaments and governments that Priti Patel has formally and legally agreed to stand for commercial charges to the same degree. 2. That there is a formal and lasting legal and binding agreement between Mr. Anton Carpena and Priti Patel in the position of Member of Parliament for him parliaments and governments that the above formally agreed fraud by misrepresentation is also formal and criminal malfeasance in the office, which carries a term of incarceration of 25 years, life, which is also a chargeable criminal offence, and that there is a formal and lasting legal and binding agreement between Mr. Anton Carpena and Priti Patel in the position of Member of Parliament for him parliaments and governments. That Priti Patel has formally and legally agreed to stand for commercial charges to the same degree. 3. That there is a formal and lasting legal and binding agreement between Mr. Anton Carpena and Priti Patel in the position of Member of Parliament for him parliaments and governments that the above formally agreed fraud by misrepresentation and malfeasance in the office is a demonstrated and willful intention to cause distress and alarm, which is also a demonstrated willful and belligerent act of terrorism, and that there is a formal and lasting legal and binding agreement between Mr. Anton Carpena and Priti Patel in the position of Member of Parliament for him parliaments and governments. That Priti Patel has formally and legally agreed to stand for commercial charges to the same degree. So let it be said. So let it be written. So let it be done. Without ill will or vexation. For and on behalf of the Principal Mr. Anton Carpena. For and on behalf of the Attorney General of the House of Carpena. For and on behalf of Baron Anton of the House of Carpena.